BYU runs a lot of pistol, it feels like, and I don't think that's unnecessarily uncommon in college football, but what challenges does it present when a team can play out a pistol?
Similar to what we kind of talked about last week with Arizona running stuff under center. They don't give you a lot of pre-snap tells. There's probably some things that they can do out of pistol that could give you problems, and there's probably a few ways that pistol might limit some of the things that they do. So, it's just another layer of things, that people have to read, and so the more multiplicity you get with backfield sets, with formations, with motions and stuff, the more complicated defense gets, and so that's just one more thing guys have to think about.
When Keenan made that interception last week, could you tell that he was in line to do that the whole way, or did he just catch up to it?
He's like a streak of lightning, wasn't he? I mean, I saw we call him an overlap player. I saw our player coming from the backside, VJ, who was very close to that play also. Been interesting. If Keenan wouldn't have made it, how close he would have been to it. And I saw Keenan, because he was a visual player, so he should have been able to see that whole thing unfold. But just to cover the ground that he does. I mean, that's one of his best attributes is his speed and his ball skills when he gets to the point of attack. So that was a big deal. I mean, him making that play probably turned the tide of that game.
Your defensive line kind of take hold of that game, what they were able to do against a really good offensive line.
It was awesome. And when you look at the stat sheet and you say we had one sack, I think that's what it was. It wasn't numbers that are going to blow you away, but I could pull 5 or 6 examples where Fafita in weeks past would have gotten out of the pocket on people that we did a great job of keeping them in. Brendan Mott, Stufflebeam, everybody. I shouldn't single people out, but they did a phenomenal job with what we were talking about with rush lanes, because that was one of the ways that I thought Arizona could get some explosive plays was by getting that kid out of the pocket and getting into the scramble mode. We've had some issues with that this year already, and they just never let him out.
With Red Sloth's mobility, does that kind of translate to
the same thing? Yeah, it's the same philosophy. Blitzers are going to have to know where they're going. Rushers are going to have to understand where they belong in the rushes, and guys in the back end are going to have to do a good job with their scramble rules, and that's something that we've worked on to try to improve. Sometimes scenarios come up that are difficult. We've run into a couple of those, but people have to understand what the issues are and work collectively to fix them.
What kind of momentum is this defense playing with coming off Arizona and going to BYU?
It's an interesting question because I don't know. I still don't know what this group is. I can tell you this. We've got, I don't know, I'm not going to name names, but we've got a good core group of guys that I know are going to compete every week. I know they're going to understand every detail. I have no fear about them in any one-on-one situations. They're as good as there is in the country. And then we've got a group of guys, about a half a dozen of them, that are developing that we're going to go as they go. If they're really good, we're going to be really good on defense. And if they make mistakes, we're going to have some of what happened in Tulane, and some of it's just youth, some of it's inexperience. We're working through all that stuff. But the better that group is, the better we're going to be as a unit.
The defense has created 3 turnovers, and they've all been pretty important turnovers over the last 2 weeks. How much of that is, I guess, being in the right place at the right time, or how much of that is a player being able to make a play in the right situation? To be
able to finish on a ball like Keenan did, that's just an individual being a really good player. To being able to scoop and score like Jack did, that's a guy that's got guts to go make a play. We work on turnovers. I'm sure everybody in the country works on turnovers. We do turnover circuits. We talk about it all the time. We're talking about it daily. We're hammering it. We're trying to finish with strips on ball carriers, all that stuff. Sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. I wish I could say we're getting turnovers because I'm such a great coach, or we've got some secret recipe, but we don't. Sometimes you could go 2 weeks and not get one. Sometimes you might get 5 in a game, and some of it has to do with your mentality. Some of it's luck at the draw, to be honest with you. Some of it's how careless an opponent is with the ball. And, you combine those things, and in the right place at the right time, you get them in bunches.
What's made Damian and Uso a good tag team there at D-tackle?
Yeah, well, for starters, both of them have tremendous ability, and probably both of them are smart football players. Damian's a really smart football player, has a great grasp of not only what he's doing, what's happening around him. And Uso's got just such tremendous physical ability, and so when you combine those guys, as a 1-2 punch, we don't care who's in there. I don't even know most of the time, who's in there. I just we're rolling and we feel good, equally confident with both of them in there, and I think the people around them feel the same way.
Depth ideal for a game at altitude, late night?
I'm nervous about that. I don't know. We haven't talked about it a whole bunch. I feel like we can roll guys in. I don't know what the pace of the game's going to be. If we're able to get off the field, and then it won't be an issue. If we're having 17-play extended drives, I'm sure it'll catch up to us. So I don't know. It'll only be a factor if we allow it to be a factor, and I don't want there to be any excuses for what we're doing.
BYU doesn't have, I guess, one go-to wide receiver. They've been pretty spread out in terms of catches and targets. What have you seen from their wide receiver room, and is that just a nature of them scheming different guys open, or?
I think that's the strength of their offense. Honestly, I think is their receiver room. I think they got a lot of good football players in there. I think Chase Roberts is a guy that stands out to me. Maybe not that any of them aren't good football players, but I just notice him a lot making plays. Number 2, and I think they have good speed. I think they have tremendous size. Sometimes you run into guys that are long and stuff, but they're 180 pounds, and these guys aren't that. I think they do a good job schematically of getting those guys open and putting them in places. And I don't think offensively they really care who it is. I think they feel like all those guys can make plays, and so we're going to have to do a job on all of them.